So good morning, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining MIA. MIA is a mental illness awareness group that operates as a support group and as a disclaimer, as a facilitator of the group, this meeting would normally happen in public. I have to make the disclaimer and let it be known that this is strictly a support group. This group does not take precedence or place of any medical or professional help, and it is not a place where we can give or seek medical or professional help. Again, this is a place for support, especially during our tough times, during these tough times, during the quarantines across the world, and the COVID-19 virus that seems to be sweeping closer and closer to home every day. So with that, we see it more and more important to be able to have support groups like this. And I've invited a good friend of mine, Clarence, who I've taught with for several years. I've known for many years. He's done many great things. He's started different nonprofit organizations on the West Coast and in Virginia Beach, and now he's here in Baltimore, planted, doing some great work. He's a teacher in D.C. public school system, and he's a pastor of a church, and I'll let him speak for himself. But Clarence, thank you for joining us today. You're a plethora of knowledge and wisdom, and you have been one of the closest people to my mental health journey, especially after I was diagnosed. And we've been along the same lines in a lot of times, and I'll let you speak for yourself, and then we'll get started on the platform. So, Clarence, thank you for having us. Have some of my guests here that don't know you. I'd introduce myself to your guests, so you can go ahead and take the time to do the same.
Absolutely. First, thanks, bro, for this opportunity. As you stated, this is not a substitute for seeking mental support, mental health support, especially during this pandemic. There's so many people who are facing challenges, whether it be physically or mentally, emotionally, that this pandemic doesn't help. Some people escape home, right, because of a situation like this.
Exactly.
I mean, because of home situations, and to have to stay home is daunting for a lot of people. And so I'm excited to be able to engage in this discussion. Again, not to be able to give clinical help if you need it, but to provide support. But again, Robert said, I've traveled the country doing ministry work for quite some time. Now a teacher in DC public schools. I'm a single father to a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old. And so that you will hear throughout the entire call. But I just I think that again, there's some men out there who share that same testimony where it's like, I'm raising my children.
We were just on a call with one the other day, remember?
Yeah. So I'm excited, and I want to get started because we've already behind the time. And so thank you for having me. If you want to find me, just follow me at Pastor Jack. That's at PASSAJAX. And that's on all social media platforms. Send me an inbox if you have any questions, and I'll entertain it as soon as I can.
And that's Passa, not to be confused with pastoral. It's Passa, right? Like the
whole
Passa. All right, got you.
Passa.
Got you. So, one thing I wanted to talk about, and we're only going to be 30 minutes tonight. Again, as a support group, if there are things that you want to talk about as we're speaking, please feel free to comment in the comment section or reaction section as we get them. We will address them. But I know for me, Clarence, I think it's interesting that we do this today because, as you already know, but I'm sharing with the viewers, today has been a real battle for me mentally, just because of the quarantine, in a sense that it's putting a strain on me that I've been really, really hard on myself in terms of my productivity and not taking the time to just kind of be still, which is what the world seems to be doing. While I be feeling the need to rev up, and so a lot of times I'm really hard on myself. And today was one of those days, and this is exactly what this support group is for, because you never know who's struggling with the same things that you're struggling with, or dealing with the same things that you're dealing with. A lot of times when people hear mental illness, they don't even think about things like anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Or mild depression, right? Which are conditions of mental illness. but because it's such a stigmatic phrase, um, we don't want to relate to it. So I was just sharing the journey. I just wanted to get that off me. I'm an introvert, so I like to be inside of the house. I'm a natural homebody. I love to be in the house. It doesn't affect me in that way, um, but it does have a different type of mental toll on even someone that's comfortable being at home. And as deaths get closer and closer to me, um, it has even more a greater impact.
Yeah. I think that's important to say. Like, for many people, most people are extroverts. That's the people that's protesting and wanting to go outside and want to do all that kind of stuff. As for me in my house, I can stand here. I can stand here forever.
Mm,
I ain't ever got to leave. And I think, bro, I make my house comfortable not just for me and for my children,
right.
but for others. And so I
But
want this to
how
be
though? How do you do that?
oh
Now,
man.
how can we do
Um,
that?
what first thing you got to do is you have to make your house comfortable for you, right?
Hmm.
And so put everything in it that you like, things that will make so that when you say I'm going home,
That's
not
why
only
you.
are you saying that to somebody else.
That's
Can
why
you
you
hear me?
pick those ugly curtains behind you.
That's exact, and
Oh.
this is why I got these lights on. Alexa, turn the lights on.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Oh wow! Look, wow. You made your house for you. You're a living testimony. Go ahead, brother. Finish what you were
Hey
saying.
yo, my house is made for me, bro.
Hmm.
Like, and I keep I like a homey house, right? I
Hmm.
like a homey spot. And so I make sure that, like, even when I went to buy my couch, right, it had to be comfortable, right? Because if I entertain guests and they happen to stay over later, I want to make sure that, they have a comfortable spot. I don't want them to feel uncomfortable in my space. And so that's why, my recognizing that I'm an introvert allowed me to realize that because of that, I need to make an incubator. I need to make a place where I can go, be safe, be secure, get my work done, hide from the
Hmm.
world. And so, what COVID has taught me is to embrace the fact that I am who I am, and to appreciate, being able to just kind of sit still and
Hmm.
enjoy being still. But being home, shoot, I wanted to do that anyway.
But you know what though? Um, so it's interesting. I don't know because I know for me, like, okay, I'll share. I took a big hit last year. Um, it's no secret to most. I had a son, my youngest son, Malachi was born, and there was a lot that I went through with that. And literally, Clarence, I stayed in my basement for about 6 months after that entire ordeal was done. Just healing myself, right? Just healing my brain. And what I learned is that during that time, um, and I think this is the case for most people. I wasn't comfortable being with myself. So it's interesting to hear you say you got to make your house for you when I wasn't even for me yet, right? This physical four
Yeah.
walls couldn't. There was
Yeah.
nothing I could do to it to make it more for me. So I'm really thankful for that 6 months because I don't think I would be able to stomach a quarantine in the condition that I was in had I not learned those tough self love skills and all of the things that we discussed and things that I learned in that process of really facing myself. So I think it could be a tough time for a lot of people just in that sense because really you really have to take an examination of your life. In terms of whether you're getting, paid and whether you're able to take care of your family and how you position yourself in life and in society. And social media has tons of things, you know, coming at you at one time. And then a lot of people are forced to be teachers now. Luckily, that's something that we're gifted to do. But a lot of
Yeah.
parents are forced into teaching now. And you know how tough teaching is. So. What are some tips to? I mean, for me, this journey of mental illness is hard work. There's no quick fix. There's no um, hocus pocus. It's a daily task. Um, and so, what are some practical ways or practical steps that you have um, given to people or have embodied yourself in order to get to the place where you even can make a home for yourself. You know, does that make sense?
Man, it makes perfect sense, and I think
Hmm.
that's one of the best questions that anybody could ever ask.
Thank you.
Um,
I came up with it myself.
all by myself. I think one one of the things that I can share with people, and you're right, you could have, and my sister is in here. She's giving me all these things to think about, so I appreciate you asking. You can have the best house, the most comfortable spot, the whole 9 yards, and still be depressed, anxious,
Hmm.
outside of yourself. And so one of the things that I had to learn prior to build, because like you were alluding to, I didn't always have this space, right? I lost
Hmm.
my mom on my daughter's third birthday, and that was, at this year it'll be 4 years. And so when I lost her, nobody thought that now I'm talking about people who knew me better than the people who see me.
Right. Right.
Nobody thought, my family that is, that I would be able to bless you, baby, raise my own kids, or bless you, baby, raise my own kids, or have my own. And I'm not talking about, bless you, baby. I'm not talking. I'm not talking about.
Bro,
Um,
I don't know. I don't know if to make that joke.
like you just had to get it. So nobody thought that this would ever be a thing. What I had to
Hmm.
learn how to do first was accept who I am as a man and as a person.
And how?
I,
How?
Here's how I did that. I had to stop trying to be who everybody else wanted me to be. What did that mean? That meant, Clarence, I tell people this all the time. I lost my mother and my marriage at the same time.
Mm.
My mother died and my marriage died almost within 3 months of each other,
Hmm.
right? And so I went, and tell people this both while I'm with them in counseling, or whether I'm just talking to them. I tell people this all the time. Your mother, or your wife, is your mother, except she does one extra thing that your mother won't do for you. And I'm not going to go there, right?
Hmm.
And so I went from having never mind. I
Wow. I can imagine.
yeah, yeah. So what I
Mm.
had to do. So hang on, I'm hearing a feedback in my own ear, and I don't like that.
Yeah, me too. I don't think they can hear it though, so just kind of try to push
Okay,
through
cool.
it. Yeah.
All right, I'll push through it. I'm sorry. So what I had to do was make sure that I made sure that when my mom died, and when my marriage ended, I had to make sure that I was in a position to be a man on my own. I could not. I had to raise my own kids. So what did I have? When I say make sure that you appreciate and love yourself first. What I mean by that is understand that nobody, not your mother's not going to be there forever. Your spouse, unfortunately, they're going to die or whatever at some point. It's necessary. You have to be able to say, I love me, whether I'm broke,
Hmm.
whether I'm hungry, whether I don't have a roof over my head. I was teaching, bro. I was teaching, making great money, sleeping on my sister's couch.
Hmm.
Like, it wasn't, it wasn't one of those things where, I had all of this, I'm making, I'm in a great position, and, I'm a leader in society. And then I go home and I have this wonderful spot. No, here I am dreading going home from my teaching job because I knew that I didn't have no more than a couch to go to.
Hmm.
This was just 2 years ago.
Right.
And so it wasn't just um how can I say, it wasn't just, finding my own thing physically. I had to find myself mentally. And I knew that for 29 years, I had been living for everybody else. I had done what the Amazon church told me to do. I wear a black suit, look this way, and I did it all. And it
Hmm.
didn't work. I'm telling you, bruh, it didn't work, man. I don't know who's listening or who I can impart this into, but with whomever you trying to please, they don't care. They do not care. If you don't do what they tell you to do, or if you don't do it the way they tell you to do it in that moment, they're going to nix you. The only you that you can depend on is you. And when I realized that, and I realized I don't have my mom to call for money or whatever the need was, I had to stand on my own. I had to say to myself, Clarence, what more are you going to have to lose before you realize the world don't owe you anything?
Hmm.
And when that slapped me, and I know that that's a hard place for a lot of people to be,
Yeah.
but that's how I got to where, that's how I'm able to stand on my own now, is because I knew that everybody who I could depend on or had to depend on had left me. And I was by myself
Hmm.
trying to make it with two children. I couldn't, I could not go back. I couldn't. So I hope that, you know, chips away at
Yeah,
the surface
definitely.
of the.
Definitely. And I definitely can relate to that experience. I do want to address someone in the comments said, I disagree with that, Clarence. Two totally different roles in terms of mother and wife. And I understand both perspectives. But I think, and this is from a woman named Ava. So thank you for commenting. And I have
Thank you, Ava. I appreciate that.
some other comments to read as well. Um, but what I will say, Ava, is that for a man, um, I don't know. It fares a little differently, and what I mean is, I didn't grow up with my mother, but I know um, I've spent a lot of time of my life looking for a type of love that resembled that, and it wasn't until I got to a tough place in my life that I had to learn that self love. Like Clarence said, I had to be able to look at me and be able to provide for me simply because I loved myself. Um,
Yeah.
and nothing more than that. Simply because I had love for me. I had to place myself in a position to do things for me, but it wasn't easy because I'm with me 24 hours a day, right? And while everybody else, raise and things about me, I can see everything that's going on in my life. And so a lot of times, um, the first step to being comfortable with yourself is removing judgment from yourself, not allowing yourself to place judgment on your life. And really, that was one of the biggest hindrances to me in my life. The amount of judgment that I place on myself. I think we all know our ability and our capabilities, which is where that judgment comes from, and we know our past. Um, but that acceptance of self really starts with that lack of judgment. Like today, I didn't accomplish
Yeah.
maybe 90% of my goals today, so I'm pissed, right? But
Yeah.
I have to go into some meditation and actually work through those things and say, hey, because we can be on all night. I tie my worth to my productivity. So if I'm not productive in my mind, my worth has decreased a bit. And working through those is a lifelong journey and a lifelong process. I think a lot of times people think there's this quick fix. But so I understand your perspective, Abe. I think just for men, especially men who may or may not even have had a strong um, role model in their lives. My daughter commented, "Hey, baby," um, it can be a challenge. But thank you for commenting. I have
I like.
sure. Yeah,
Let
yeah,
me
yeah,
say
yeah,
something
yeah.
to Ava real quick, please, real quick, and I want to hear the next quick question. Ava, I appreciate that statement. I appreciate that, and I think that you're absolutely right. But I want you to focus on one or two shared responsibilities that a wife provides and a mother provides. A mother is nurturing. A mother is going to ensure that not just the kids going to eat, but everybody in the community is going to eat. A mother's not going to sit around with a pile of dirty. I'm not saying that women are supposed to do these jobs because as a single father with two children, 5 and 6, I know how to do those jobs. But what I'm saying is a mother is not going to sit around with dirty laundry in the house and let it pile up or, the bathtub. So a mother is going to make sure that her children are taken care of, not just financially, not just physically, but the latent
From a
things, the
role
things
perspective.
that,
Hmm.
yeah, the things that, children normally just isn't going to think about. Same thing with the husband. I was sharing with one of my clients that she said to me her husband wanted her to congratulate him when he took out the trash. Almost say, "Oh, baby, I saw you take out the trash. Oh, that's amazing. You're the best man in the world." And
That's
she couldn't
that's
put
how
in
I
the for
am.
the understand why would he want me to pat him on the back to
For what
do
you're supposed to
something
do.
supposed to do.
Hmm.
Anyway, I said he's not saying, oh,
You did
I did
something
something.
grandiose.
He's just saying, hey, baby, look what I did. Just like your child. Your child cleaned their room or brushed their own teeth or did something that you're saying at this point you should have done that anyway. But instead you're saying, hey, baby, I know, look at you. You're the best 4-year old in the world. And so I respect your position, Ava. I appreciate that. And I'll take that into my own Rolodex to use it in my own practice. Thank you.
Good job, man. From Chanel, and I'm not rushing through, but I told everyone we keep it to 30 minutes tonight. Usually these meetings will be an hour, but it was our first one virtual. We wanted to see how it goes. It's going very great. We have a lot of comments. Go ahead.
Yeah, get many. I think we should just get through as many as we can.
Let's see. Whoa, who was that? Oh, that's your baby. I was like, what was that? Chanel said, "Hello, I have mild depression and still learning to deal with myself. I'm also a person who go in my head and think a lot, and dealing with this situation can be hard on me sometimes. And dealing with a teenager in the home, how would you tell a person like me to deal with this situation? Also, I've never been a home person, so this is new. You wanna go with that first or?"
It was Chanel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chanel,
Chanel.
baby, you are, first of all, you are amazing. Nobody really understands what you're going through. Daddy, give me just a second. Nobody really understands what you're going through, Chanel. But here's what I would recommend for you. You need to start journaling. Get you, and
Mm.
I would not recommend
Mm.
you putting it in a notebook or a spiral book. And I teach this to a lot of my clients. The reason I'd recommend not putting it in a notebook because I don't want you to be afraid to say what you need to say. And sometimes you just want to cut somebody out, Chanel. Sometimes that somebody is that teenager. And you can't say it the way you want to say it. And you don't ever want him to find it or
Her, I
anybody
think.
else to find it. I'm sorry.
Her, I think. I think it's a daughter.
Oh, you want her to find it.
Hmm.
And so what I would recommend, Chanel, is that you would start journaling. Journal every morning. What do I mean by that? When you need to set that day. And what it sounds like, if I'm understanding what you're saying, what it sounds like is you are dealing with the type of depression that carries you from day to day, from situation to situation. And when you get up in the morning, you can't even function the right way. You're doing your daily tasks, but I feel like you're not really able to give it your all. And so when you journal in the morning, what you're doing is you're flushing out all of those thoughts that you woke up with, that you're carrying into the day. And I promise you, Chanel, I tried tonight. I promise you, if you journal, you're going to feel so much more relief because you're able to get that stuff out of your mind onto something able to move on throughout the day. The other thing that I would recommend that you do, Chanel, is that you might, hearing what I heard, you might want to invest preliminary in somebody to talk to, not a friend, but somebody who has been trained and is certified, who's able to give you how to get through this circumstance or the next. But I'm encouraging you, and I hope that you would inbox me or Robert if you need more support.
Yeah, that was great. I don't want to add too much to that because I'll be repeating a lot. But one thing I would suggest too is maybe having therapy with your daughter because it'll allow you the opportunity to understand a lot of things that's going on in her brain as well. And a lot of times 60% of anguish comes from miscommunication or misunderstanding of things. So, Chanel, I'm praying for you. Teenagers, being a single, like Clarence said, there's a bubble of you across this country, and no one else understands what you're going through. We can empathize as much as we want, and we thank you for everything that you're doing for our future. Really quickly, we have like 1 minute. Clarence, I did want to share this comment with you. Tiffany said, I can relate. I lost my mom and marriage around the same time, too. I had no children, though. Thank you for sharing.
Tiffany, God bless you.
Yeah,
I'm praying
absolutely.
for you. I'm praying for you, Tiffany.
Minaj said that is my biggest weakness. I think she was talking about when I was talking about the judgment on myself. And
Yeah.
Minaj, that there is a byproduct of just knowing how great you are, but expecting it today. And that's one
Yeah.
thing that I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
have to make sure that I'm guarded by. As I get older, um, I get worried about um, if I'm going to accomplish what I know I'm set here to do. I made some mistakes over the last 2 and 3 years that have really set me back. But I can't continue to judge myself for that. I have to correct what I can correct, and continue to just press forward every day. And it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. One thing I
All
do,
right, bro.
one thing I do every day is I look myself in the mirror and I say, "So what?" um, and then I walk away. And I try to go live my life after that point. Meditation also helps me as well. And I have a video that's coming out tomorrow. We had some technical difficulties today. It was supposed to come today, but it'll be here tomorrow. Just on, it's called 800 milligrams of meditation. Um, and that's something that you may benefit from. Um, uh,
So what was
Go
that?
ahead,
What was that called? That commenter's name?
Minaj.
Did I recommend a book for you, Minaj. The book called I Am Number Eight. It's called I Am Number Eight by John Curry. Pick that up. I have it on iTunes. The premise of the book talks about how do you feel, how do you manage life when you know you're gifted, but you also know your gift won't actualize for another couple years. The writer talks
I
about
need that book.
David in the Bible. It's called I Am Number Eight. The writer talks about David in the
I am
Bible,
number
where
8.
many of you, a lot of us have heard or know that David was anointed the king before he was
When
actually
he was 12,
appointed king.
yeah, yeah.
Imagine being gifted but not given what you've been gifted with. Imagine somebody saying, and many of us hate this. I hate this. I'm sure you do. Somebody give you a gift and then say, but don't open it till Christmas. Well, it's March. You could have waited. You know what I mean? Because
Mm,
now the
the
anticipation, the
anticipation.
expectation, all that is eating me alive, and I'm watching the thing that could possibly be what I want sitting in front of me. And so, I Am Number Eight by John Kerry. He helps you to iron out how to be number eight, because David is Jesse's eighth son. And so, how do you be number eight? Be gifted, be anointed. And I hate to go into this, Robert. I know we got to go, but David was. They told him, Where's David? He out in the field. David was dirty. The Bible says he was ruddy. He smelled and looked like sheep. And here he is, the king. Imagine being dirty from your past, ruddy because people don't think you look the right way, and smell like sheep. You know what sheep smell like. You've been through some things. Imagine having all that stuff and still being the king. And so, Minaj, you're the queen. You just gotta
That's
wait
dope.
for it.
That's dope.
You just gotta
Um,
wait for it.
Nicole Veltri said, I would consider myself an extrovert in that I draw energy from being around people, but I'm not
Yeah.
protesting having to stay home. My anxiety comes from not being able to help my students.
Ooh.
That that's and we have to go. I'm sorry, but that's so lofty
I know that's
because
it.
I, as a I feel you because as I'm sitting in my home
Yeah.
now, and I can take my kids on a walk and we can do their homework with them, and I can argue about them eating snacks all day long and wasting water bottles. It's
Yes,
really a luxury,
it is.
and I know, and we have, and especially you serve a population that doesn't have that as a luxury. And how can you sit in a room with someone day in and day out and not worry about them? So I totally understand that, but you know that's
It
honorable anxiety, but you still have to cure that
is.
anxiety. You
You gotta
have
get
to
rid of it.
whatever you need to do. You got
That's
to
true.
call them. Um,
Here's what
Go ahead.
I know. We're running out of time. I hate to cut you off, bro, but I
No,
know
go
we're
ahead.
running out of time. Here's what I've done, and I'm sorry, I don't see the same comments that Robert sees. So when I say give me that name again, it's not because I'm being derelict. It's literally
Nicole.
because I don't want to be rude. Nicole,
Mm.
Nicole, let me share something with you. I understand you completely. I started teaching before I came into teaching, I was in the youth counseling field, mental health field. And when I moved back to Baltimore, it was Robert who got me my first teaching opportunity. And from there, and not to say I never wanted to teach, I just never, had an opportunity. And so now I understand what you're saying. So I went from teaching in the public school to now teaching in jail, where I am more worried about my students now than I would have been, I think, if they were just at home with their parents, because most of my kids are locked down 23 hours a day and that whole bit. And so I miss my students, and I understand your frustration, but here's what I've done to try to channel that emotion. I started a small little homeschooling program. I think you should do it. You're qualified. Small little homeschooling. You can do Zoom, you can do Microsoft Teams, you can do a whole lot of social apparatuses. But I did that to be able to get the itch out, but also to be able to say I'm still giving back. There are some parents out there who just cannot help their children with homework, but you can do that. There are some parents who can't read, but you can. And so if you offer yourself in that way, I think you'll be successful.
That's dope, man. I just want to wrap up. Minaj said thank you. A few people said this was a great conversation. They enjoyed you. Chanel said thank you for the advice and she'll try our suggestions. Tiffany said thank you as well. Ava dropped the name of the book in the comments, so thank you. And as I prepared this video or this live for video, in the descriptions of the video that I post, there are going to be a lot of links that will help support you in this time of need, or help support someone that you may love, from apps to YouTube videos to things to read, with a lot of information on incorporating new strategies and new skills to help us get through this tough time. We thank you all for coming. Just really quickly, Nicole said, thanks, let me know when this is happening again. Love, and Tiffany said, love this. I now know I'm not alone. Wow.
You're not alone. And we have more to unpack, Tiffany. I want to shout out my sister, Ashley McKay Pittman.
Hey, Ashley McKay Pittman.
Who also says this was a nice conversation. She's been giving us advice, and some of the things that I've been sharing is because she's been able to just kind of chip away at it. She shared several things like, ladies, get you a prayer journal, find you a quiet place in your house, even if it's the shower. Ashley says, hey, so thank you, Ashley. Thank you, everybody who came out to chat with us. And I hope to see you guys again. I hope you bring me on one more time.
Absolutely. Well, checks in the mail. We'll see what happens. So Nicole Voucher said, let us know when this is happening again. This will be a Wednesday at 7:30. Wednesdays at 7:30. If you're watching on Facebook, it really helps me out if you watch it on YouTube Live next week. I do want you here regardless, either way. So be mindful of that. Watch out for that next week. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for coming to hear this conversation. And we hope to make it much more enriching and continue it as we go forward. Just really quickly before we go out, Julius did say nice sweaters, and I want him to tell me which one is better.
Hey, yo, Julius, you call me offline and say that. Hey, yo. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna call you offline. I call you when we hang up because we got conversations. Thank you though, but
thank
call
you all.
Me. Yeah.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
All right, y'all take care. See you next week.
Bye bye.